Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Midday Market Monitor. In today's video, we have to talk about the green market. It has been quite the turnaround here as the S&P is up 0.3%, back up to $7,674. A little bit away from the all-time highs, 7,800, but not too far off. NASDAQ also up 0.6% with some pretty amazing healthcare companies leading the way. Accelera up almost 16%. Moderna up 13.7%. And then we also have things like Oklo up nearly 10%. SMCI up 8.7%. That's back up to $38 a share. T1 Energy up 8.3%. Energy Fuels up 6.8%. Hyperliquid up 7.7%. This has been having quite the run ever since Trump ended up talking about it, specifically naming Hyperliquid's name at the White House last meeting, talking about how they're working hard to bring it to America. Robinhood also catching some of the bid as we're seeing some of the crypto names, not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but many of the tertiary or potentially meme coins also starting to run, which Robinhood and Hyperliquid and Coinbase and these sort of companies are going to benefit from. On top of that, you have names like CleanSpark up 6%, Bloom Energy up 6%, IREN up 5.8%. We were talking about this one yesterday. It seems like this company is just a little too cheap right now. However, I don't think that they are, the best way to play the entire neocloud space. Whenever it comes to the proportionate valuation in that sector, which is almost like a subsector, but of the neoclouds, IREN is starting to poke out as one of the cheapest here at almost around $40 a share. And that's up today at, up 5.8%. Yesterday, it was even lower than that. Pretty wild, the pricing. I can see some, fans of Steve coming in here, Eve of Nvidia, as Nvidia stock is up 1.8%, leading the Mag 7 charge right now, headed into earnings tomorrow. I gave my predictions yesterday on Nvidia. The stock, I believe, is going to, hopefully do well, but in terms of their actual earnings, it's going to be a triple beat, in my opinion. We've seen a lot of really good reports, whether that's on CPU purchases, LPX purchases, or GPU purchases for Nvidia, a lot of which is not even baked into guidance. So quite nice. Hello, everyone. Okay, that being said, it would not be a great Nvidia day without an Nvidia upgrade. And that's exactly what we saw from Raymond James, raising their price target on Nvidia. They already had a very high price target, $330 with a strong buy rating. Now they're saying $352 on Nvidia. The analyst commented, Nvidia has increased its visibility in CPUs, even if it's not a new part of the story. However, CPUs represent a low single-digit percentage of Nvidia sales, roughly 3% today. In the past, Nvidia CPUs were tightly tied to its GPUs, but that should change as they launch the Vera standalone systems. Particularly with agentic use cases, while Nvidia's CPU revenue is becoming material within the CPU market, we expect it to reach approximately 5% of total revenue by calendar year 2028. Still a single-digit portion, yet the growth is fastest amongst the elements that we model, which is quite interesting. It means that the GPU, to only go from 3 to 5% as they launch their own standalone system, means that should have explosive growth on the CPU side. But that just goes to show you how much they still believe that the GPU, the Rubin systems, the Vera Rubin systems, are still going to be growing, right? So it's going to grow from 3 to 5%, but still representing a small portion. That's how they're modeling it currently. We have extended our model for fiscal year 2029 or calendar year 2028 and refined our segment assumptions. Amongst the surprising conclusions from our market analysis is the proportion of Nvidia that could become the world leader in CPU revenue within just several years. We have been disappointed with the stock's year-to-date performance, with shares up only 12%, largely matching the S&P 500 index. But the stock is trading at calendar year 2027 of less than 15 times PE. So next year's PE, it's trading less than 15 times their current modeling. They think that this is ridiculous. The S&P 500 alone for next year trades at 18.6 times. So does this make sense to you guys? The S&P is trading more expensively than Nvidia, and Nvidia is growing at 100+%. He said, the discount strikes us as fundamentally illogical, considering that sales and net income growth still exceed 20% in our calendar 2028 estimates. Typically, a company with sustainable earnings, barriers to entry, which they point towards CUDA and leading GPU performance, and healthy free cash flows at multiples above the overall market should make, they're essentially factors that should weigh on NVIDIA's share overall. They did say that a $5.2 trillion market cap could limit further exposure, and that should make the company a little bit cheaper. But their overall growth and the fact that they should be trading somewhere around a 22 times multiple applied to calendar 2028 estimates would represent this company at about $352 a share. That's what they believe the price of NVIDIA should be now. Okay? Not $330, $352. And so, pretty wild. That was Simon Leopold. Brother, you can't be having a last name like that. Simon Leopold said that? I got to look this guy up. One sec. Simon Leopold from Raymond James. He is one of the highest rated analysts on all of Wall Street. Absolute 5-star rating. Simon Leopold. Every Leopold on the planet is bullish AI. Yeah, it sounds like it. But he has an average return of 30+% and a 60% success rate. That's quite good. And you can see throughout the AI space, he is quite bullish. Get this out of here. Nokia, not so bullish on, but his rating was back in October of 2025. So that does play a part. And they haven't updated his NVIDIA thing. This only came out today, so it'll probably appear later on. But he did just, as of August 25th, just upgrade from 330 to 352 based on some of the comments that I just said. Is Raymond James the one that has SpaceX at 800? I know that there was someone with an $800 price target. 800 Raymond James, but it's a different analyst. And actually an analyst that's, well, I mean, he's still a 5-star analyst, but he's lower than where Simon is. Gonzo, you were correct. You were correct. Here, I can show you this here. This is Brian's reports. And if we go down, he's got Palantir as a hold. Wait, did I miss SpaceX? SpaceX right here, 800. It's right at the top. My bad. Okay. And the stock is a little bit down from where he put an $800 price target. All right. Well, you know, things happen. You know what? I have to give a lot of credit. Okay, sorry. We'll have a guest appearing here not too long. What's it called? So I have to give credit to analysts that end up giving extremely bold predictions. It's like really career risking to stick your neck out so far. If you put your price targets in with the rest of the crowd, it doesn't really pop out as being anything too terrible. You know, if everyone's wrong, then it's like, hey, you know what? I was looking at the same indicators as them. If everyone's saying, you know, it's a $200 stock, you say it's an $800 stock, and then it ends up falling. It's like you're that much more wrong than they were. So, yeah. Okay. We want Hood 150 before end of year. That one's a little bit harder because, and absolutely not saying that that couldn't happen. That 1000% like could happen. Okay. What I will say, however, is there's so many factors that have to lead for Robinhood to be at a very high price. Not only does the market have to be in extremely good shape, but then other aspects like crypto, event contracts, their performance alone, they have to be taking market share. So not only do they have execution risk that they have to get things right, the market has to be in the right position, macro. And then on top of that, other asset classes have to be in the right position. And then we could see new highs on Robinhood. And that's really what was happening whenever we were at 150 the first time around, is everything was perfect. Growth was at 100+%. Like, company was doubling year over year. They were opening up new asset classes. I don't even think really prediction markets were around back then, or just starting to get going, which is kind of funny because, last quarter we actually had more revenue and more profit than the highest quarters that we've seen previously. But it was a little bit more euphoric back then. Now I think the market is, still pricing it very well, 49 times trailing PE. But, it's things that we have to factor in here, that the company is quite cyclical. BMNR or no stock can go up in a straight line. Here's the thing. I was looking at some of the previous prices. Tom Lee ended up highlighting this, that if we go to, actually, let me bring this down here. If we go to ETH and we go back a bit, I think it was May of 2025, the last time that we ended up seeing a 30% run in a single day. Okay. Or sorry, in a single week. So you see this big pump here, right? Last time that happened, it stayed stagnant in that price after the run from May through to about the beginning of July. So about 2 months. And then exploded again all the way to brand new highs, almost $5,000. So, but it was this indication. And similarly, I think it was July of 2021. Maybe it was here. I think this week also, they ended up seeing a week that ended up gaining 30+%. And then in the subsequent time, it ended up flying up to all-time highs. Okay. The next time that we ended up seeing a 30% run in a single week was all the way right here, where we are. Now, if we look to last time in May of 2025, it took about 2 months at this price. It ran up 30%, waited 2 months, and then exploded. Okay. But that's not always the case. That's just what happened last time. But the 2 times that it's ran 30% in a week, this asset has exploded since then. The tokens have absolutely ran up in price. It is pretty wild. I also think that there's a lot of things that are quite different about Ethereum than those previous times. There was no treasuries. There was no large asset buyers that are staking a mass amount of overall Ethereum. The staking base right now is huge on Ethereum, meaning there's a lot of locked up supply that's not looking to move. It strengthens the overall security of the coins. More validators and trustworthy validators like BMNR, for example, doesn't want to mess around with Ethereum. They own almost 5%, but they'll be validating real transactions. On top of that, you're having things like tokenization start to actually pop off, payments, these sort of things. You see overall stablecoin use, especially on Ethereum, be near or at all-time highs. So there are some different themes that we're seeing this time that might allow us to hit higher highs. Because if you end up looking back at the runs that we've seen in 2021, the high was 4,700. Then this high was 4,900. Obviously, we would have liked it for it to have been much higher. But the idea that like the top is 4,900 doesn't necessarily need to be the case. We could end up exploding much higher than that. But also the time between these peaks, roughly a 4-year cycle, we might be a little bit early to start taking off again and breaking new all-time highs, because we're very, very early on since we've ended up seeing that, high back in August of 2025. It's roughly been 1 year. Okay. But that's how long those drawdowns usually take, is about 1 year. So we'll have to see, was that the year going from November of 2021 all the way to, well, about November of 2022 here? That was kind of like where we ended up bottoming out and then re-climbing. Is this exactly what happened over here? Did we fall all the way and now getting ready to potentially buy back in? Was this your buying area? I don't know. But it is making me pretty confident in crypto. I mean, I've never been somebody who's shied away from the volatility of cryptocurrency. And very happy to take positions that move this quickly. Like, for example, my stakes in Robinhood and Coinbase and these sort of things in the draft. The draft's going crazy right now, guys. Do you think as it's going on that there is a possibility that we actually win this year? What do you think? In the draft right now, I'm leading pretty well. And we'll have to see. It's too early. I mean, it is too far off to tell, but it's the same names. Like, for the most part, you're not going to be able to switch out and like Jason, he can cut some names and then end up putting in new names, but those new names are going to be at, let's say if you're down 20, 30% on some of those names, good luck coming back from a 70% position. And then if it does turn around, like if AI ends up coming back, these are things that I'm super invested in. Like, I don't think that they have thematic portfolios that are nearly diversified enough away from what I'm investing in. It's not like energy or something is falling and I have no energy names. Then they could come back. But like, I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that we have a pretty decent portfolio. And maybe that is the jinx. No, because you didn't take SoFi? That's fair. I absolutely wanted it. I absolutely did want it. But, it just didn't pan out that way. Mercado Libre is doing extremely well. Microsoft's doing well. Palantir actually took my first place because, like look at the run that we're on is not because of one individual name doing really well. Rubrik was up like 48% earlier. We're only up 32%. Like, a lot of my names is just super diversified. There's no portfolio that people have that even remotely mimics mine. They either have like one or two names that are doing extremely well, or like Matt just doesn't have any real losers. I mean, that's honestly amazing. That's what you're looking for. But like, Steve has two really good winners, Zeta and Salesforce. Everything else, meh. I have QXO and Vertiv that are killing me. And 9 green positions. Hood's barely green, but it's pretty interesting. Like, even if we end up seeing a return to a lot of AI names, like SMCI is going to do extremely well, Lumentum's going to do well, ASML is going to do well, Vertiv's going to do well, Microsoft's going to do well. Yeah, I think QXO will do well in a few month time frame. Like, I'm actually not too worried about that. I don't know if I'm going to trim anything. we do get to trim up to 2 positions every quarter. The time that we started was mid-June, so our quarter's coming up around September, mid-September. I don't know. I do not know. Some people weren't ready for software summer. Software summer. I don't know if I necessarily have a software, like I know it seems like I do with Palantir and Microsoft and stuff, but I was not picking those names purely for a software comeback. I was just picking them because they're the best names. Like they're just, I would buy them in any season. So, okay. I think Matt might take it for sure. I think Matt's absolutely in it. But what's the likelihood that I come in the top 3? That I'm in the, upper half? Did you pick them because of the valuation at the time too? Of course. Of course. Okay. Let's go ahead and check out CNBC really quick. We've got a guest joining us in the next probably 20 minutes or so. And hear some of their thoughts about Nvidia earnings and what they're expecting for tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a very big day. Like, I'm very, very excited. Do you see Micron getting back to all-time highs soon? Yeah, I mean, I'm still invested in that company because I do think that we're going to have higher highs, but it's just a matter of like people need to make sure that the build out is going to continue to happen. Like I think it's just time. Same thing with SoFi. Like I think they're showing off the right things, and sometimes people want the valuation to come down even further to justify them purchasing in, and that's perfectly fine. I don't mind seeing another quarter. It's hard to get mad at a position that is earning so much and is green in the portfolio. It's like, nothing wrong with that. Okay. There's been a lot of macro talk, a lot of bond talk lately. Let's go ahead and check out CNBC. Citigroup, Nathan Sheets was on talking about how the fiscal position today is completely out of control. Let's have a listen.
More on the Treasury intervention, specifically the policy behind the move and the possible ramifications for the Federal Reserve. We want to bring in Nathan Sheets. He is global chief economist at Citi. And Nathan, thanks for coming in today.
Good to be here.
First of all, is Stan Druckenmiller right? Is this about trying to move Treasury prices and yields?
Broadly speaking, I think the answer to that question is yes. We've seen a fair amount of softness at the back end of the yield curve. To some extent with the 10-year, but maybe even more so with the 30-year. And when you're sitting in the Treasury building, you're sitting in the Fed building, and you see that kind of softness, you start to worry about financial stability risks. So, if I'm being generous, I would say it's an effort to ensure stability at the back end of the curve, but ultimately, these are higher yields than Secretary Bassin and Chairman Walsh would like to see.
You said if you're being generous, you would say this is to lend to stability. If you're not being generous, you would say what?
That Druckenmiller was right, and it was an effort to bring down those longer-term interest rates. The problem is that those rates, as Druckenmiller emphasized, reflects some deeper challenges in the U.S. economy. I think number one is we have a fiscal position that's just absolutely out of control.
That's the whole threat. That's what
that's number one.
I think we keep leaving out the main thing that Druckenmiller is saying here, the hardest medicine to take. And he says that we have spent years and years and years and years ignoring arithmetic and layering on entitlement spending. that sooner or later, and the only disciplinarian is the bond market.
Yeah.
So if you mask the bond market, we will never do, and neither party has any impetus or stomach to do what's necessary.
When I look at fiscal deficits of 6% of GDP or higher, as far as the eye can see, which suggests bond issuance by the Treasury on the order of $20 to $25 trillion during the coming decade, there's a lot of issuance out there. And I can tell you, when I speak to investors around the world, the number one question I get asked is, who's going to buy it, and what does it mean for Treasury yields? And I do believe that Treasury yields are meaningfully higher today than they would be if we had half the debt and a deficit of 3%.
So Nathan, if we're at 17% revenue, which is where we've averaged that, the problem is the 24% of spending. Maybe we get up to 18 or 19. I don't know. Maybe we do something. But the thing that's staring us in the face is the 24% of spending. How would you cut that?
Well, I think you've nailed it, that we are at an impasse where we want to spend at 24% of GDP. And
we want Medicare for all. That's what the Democrats are running on. Democrats or Medicare for all. And how are we going to do that?
As you say, both parties are putting forward proposals for further expenditure, be it defense on the one hand or Medicare for all on the other. I don't have a good suggestion or solution, other than I would say that we're not going to do it all at once. And if we have a program over 8 or 10 years, I think we could address it. I would be inclined to want to do it on both the tax side and the spending side. But these trade-offs are challenging. And I guess ultimately on the spending side, it must mean reduction in entitlements, which is obviously a third rail.
So you don't think the Treasury should be doing this? What do you think the implications are?
Well,
will it work? Because Druckenmiller doesn't.
I think it won't work. Yeah. The Treasury has some tools, as we've seen, but they're limited in terms of their effectiveness and firepower. My baseline would be it doesn't work, but it's benign. I think in a more malignant scenario, and we're watching to see where all of this lands, it also interacts with the credibility of the Federal Reserve as well, right. Which is at stake. But in a more malignant scenario, it starts to undercut the credibility of the Treasury, of the administration, and maybe ultimately the Federal Reserve.
What does Kevin Warsh need to say, or what do you anticipate he will say on Friday?
I think that this is a really pivotal speech for Chairman Warsh, that he was very effective in his first few months, banging the table and telling us we have an inflation problem. But then when he was asked, well, Mr. Chairman, what are you going to do to address this inflation problem? He wasn't willing to give any strategy. And I think that disjuncture between the problem and the lack of solution has left the markets frustrated and puzzled. And I think he's got to lay out in more detail how he's thinking about the economy, how he's thinking about the path of inflation going forward, and how he's thinking about monetary policy as a potential solution. And I think he can do that without resorting to traditional forward guidance.
Do you think he's going to have to comment on what Bessent has done or is doing? Because invariably what Bessent's doing to some degree could be making his job harder if the goal is to either leave interest rates where they are or to lower them.
I don't think that he's going to formally comment on the Bessent buyback operation. But I think he is very aware that through his last press conference, we saw the 30-year Treasury yield rise by 8 to 10 basis points over that period. And I think that the metric for success on this speech is whether he's able to get some traction in rebuilding his credibility as an inflation fighter, which I think could help bring down the 30-year Treasury yield.
It's something that I don't comment on very often, because I don't think that there's a, well, I mean, I think there is an answer, to be honest, but it's not one that, wasn't just discussed. Obviously, everyone's discussing it, but the spend is just out of control on both sides. there's not a politician that's brave enough to go to the American people and say, hey, we're going to have to cut some spending because good luck at re-election. It's never going to happen. And like they said, it's the hardest pill to take. It's one that I truly think that will be almost like a country self-suicide before it ever happens, that people would just rather, commit to losing it all than even lose some of their potential benefits that are currently aligned for them, whether that's because of a specific disability, enactment, social status, certain situation that you're in. It's pretty wild. So buy a new chair. Dude, I bought the WD-40, I could change it. It's not even making, there we go. It's that direction. There we go. But it's it's my chair. Okay. If there's any Herman Miller employees in chat, let me know. We can maybe set something up. By the way, crypto has been on a run. Now, last night was even crazier. I think Bitcoin got as high as $81,000. Ethereum was above 2,500. So there are these spikes of euphoric prices that might come back down. So it's hard to gauge a little bit, but it is lining up a pretty good sign for BMNR. I'll show you why, because a lot of people have been talking about, okay, well, the clearest way to take advantage of Ethereum's move is to own Ethereum and not hold BMNR. Well, let me show you guys why that might not be the case. Okay. BMNR is back to purchasing Ethereum on their books, right? On their balance sheet. Ethereum in the last couple of weeks, roughly, in 1 week, it went up 30%. Now it's holding that price as we get into this week. It's up 31.04%. BMNR, on the other hand, in the exact same 1 month time frame, is up 48.95%, 49%. Okay, greatly outperforming Ethereum. Mind you, whenever you go and you take a look at the past movements that we've seen on Ethereum, the previous times that we've been up 30% have signaled huge potential gains, right? The following years that have coincided with Ethereum going up 30% in 1 week have been May of 2025, up 170%, and July 2021, which it went up another 167%. Okay. This is exactly what happened back in May. Huge bump in price, stayed stagnant for roughly 2 months, and then exploded all the way up from 1,800 at the start, 2,500 whenever we were done the run, all the way up to $4,958 on Ethereum, hitting the absolute high of the market before it then started to sell off later on. Okay. On top of this, Ethereum is now outperforming Bitcoin in this last little bit. A lot of people compare Ethereum to USD. If you put it up against Bitcoin, you can see how that performance has overdone itself. So not only has Ethereum been up 31% over the last month, Bitcoin up about 22.4%. Okay, let alone BMNR up 49%. So you would have twice the performance betting on BMNR than not only Ethereum, but especially Bitcoin. A lot of this has to do with their way of accumulating more Ethereum. They've been significantly under MNAV, and now as their stance has actually worked from pivoting from purchasing Ethereum to then purchasing their own stock back or in forms of buybacks, this has actually allowed them to sustain a pretty nice MNAV or market to net asset value. On top of this, the most recent week, they have started to reaccelerate those purchases. We were doing somewhere around 7,000 to 9,000 new purchases of Ethereum. There's never been a week where they haven't bought, but those purchases have obviously slowed down. Now they're on the comeback. 32,000 new Ethereum as of last week, bringing up their total ownership on the ETH supply of 4.85%. The money that they've been raising, you've actually seen this end up, almost bottoming out or getting to extreme lows. The most recent part was whenever they started their buyback program. This was the opposite of them raising money, okay? They were actually using money and not having to dilute shares in return, okay? So their amount of cash that they were having was actually going way down. This has turned around last week. They then raised $300 million last week, allowing them to go out and restart those purchases like what you saw with the $32,000 purchase. Buybacks have canceled, okay? While they did end up accumulating a total of 20.8 million total shares, reducing their outstanding share count on BMNR, that had stopped last quarter. Doesn't mean that they won't go back into it, but I'll talk about why they've ended up showing in making that happen. So look what also happened to their cash position. This return on Ethereum could not have come at a better time, right? Because it's actually allowed them to step into above 1 times MNAV. And so that's actually allowed them to raise cash, buy more Ethereum, and start that process all over again, right whenever they had gotten to the lowest cash position that they've ever seen the week before. So if this turns out to be the run that people think it's going to be, that I'm essentially alluding to, that we might end up seeing a doubling in Ethereum's price over the next few months, this will have been a historic timing event for Tom Lee, where he had brought his cash position all the way down to the bottom, buying back stock and buying all of Ethereum, running out of time. It would have gotten extremely scary if he had ran out of cash, and the only way to get new cash is through staking. That would have been a very bad moment. This is like the perfect timing, and what actually shows to really benefit BMNR, and that's why the stock is up way more than Ethereum is. This is also proven to see that because they're raising $300 million, you need to dilute stock once again. So although that had started to decrease as they were starting buybacks, those buybacks have since been canceled, and now they are purchasing back more stock. They're not at their all-time high, right, of 619 million. This is an estimated amount. There are a few times in history where they do tell us the full share count, which actually allows us to be readjusted and more even on where we believe the outstanding share count is. And honestly, our counts have been extremely good, but we are not quite at that high 614 million. But as I talked about before, they are staking, okay? The stake hasn't increased, although they've brought in, almost 40,000 or maybe 50,000 new Ethereum over the last 3 weeks. Their staking has not increased over the last 3 weeks. So they're still at the same amount, roughly 87% of the outstanding amount of Ethereum that they're holding, which is slightly decreasing here. If we were to look at the decimal places over, it is slightly decreasing because they are adding on more Ethereum, but they still, because of the price increase on Ethereum, last week I showed you guys that they were making roughly $340 million in staking revenue per year. Okay, that's based on a 3% allocation. I think actually it's a little bit lower than that, but roughly about 3% is just easy math for how the fluctuation of the staking prices goes. Now, we are actually making $30 million more a year, not based on any change in overall staking value. They didn't change the amount that they're staking, but the price per token has gone up. So now they're making $30 million more per year just based on where Ethereum's price is today. Okay, that allows them to do some pretty interesting things. And now, if we take a look at their cheat sheet, this company is now worth $14.8 billion on their market cap. Okay, they have roughly 614 million outstanding shares, 5.85 million total Ethereum, which makes up for like 4.85% of the total ETH supply, getting very, very close to the total amount that they're looking to hold, which is 5%, that 5% alchemy. Okay, we're right there. Just on Ethereum alone, MNAV is actually in a positive 1 times. They're more than what they're worth, but that's not exactly everything that they hold. They have 210 Bitcoin. They've got other investments like Beast Industries. They've got 8 holdings. All of those things add up. Not only their cash position of 308 million, right? All of these things add to the total amount that BMNR is worth. So now they're at 0.98 times on an MNAV basis on the entire company's value, meaning everything in their books is worth $15.1 billion as of today, and their market cap is $14.8 billion. Now, here's the thing. At the time that they raise, because the price of BMNR and the price of Ethereum is fluctuating so quickly, it's likely that they actually did dilute whenever MNAV was above 1 times. Okay, But because we're that close, you can actually see that the price for BMNR, although we've been outperforming, we're up like 49% in the last month versus Ethereum being only up like 32%. There's actually so much more to go if they can time their purchases correctly and continue to stake and do everything that they do correctly, and AICO Holdings continues to accelerate and Bitcoin continues to accelerate, that they could actually be worth even a higher MNAV, like 1.1 or 1.15 times. I don't think that we get back to the 1.5 or 1.3 times, not for a very, very long time. I think investors are going to be very skeptical. But because we are getting close to that 5%, because we are, doing very well on the purchases right now, BMNR is well positioned right now to continue to outperform Ethereum. And if you believe in this run, could actually be a decent investment. It's an extreme, and this is what I have to repeat because I think people get super euphoric on these types of names. This is an extremely speculative name. Drawdowns on Ethereum do not have to follow some fundamental basis. This company could find, not only could the company find new lows, but Ethereum as an asset class could find new lows. Okay. Keep the percentages in your portfolio if you are a diversified long-term investor extremely low. Risk tolerance needs to be very, very high for a company like this, but it is staked for it is positioned for a breakout if Ethereum continues to run, which technically speaking has happened a few times in a row now. Okay. That's my update on BMNR. I know it's not everyone's, favorite name right now, but I think it's during those moments whenever no one else is looking at a potential position where there could be opportunities to potentially invest. Like, why Robinhood and Coinbase and some of these companies are actually outperforming in the draft is because we got them at a time whenever no one wanted to talk about crypto. But I don't think, like people say Scam Lee gave it a bad name. I think Tom Lee is the only thing that gave it a good name. I think Tom Lee has not done anything that has potentially hurt Ethereum's bull case. Ethereum has hurt Tom Lee's name. Tom Lee got timing wrong. Okay. I think what he should have done is be less confident in his positions, and he should have alluded to how speculative his technical analysis truly was, because he was definitely wrong. There was a lot of timing issues, and if you go into it knowing, hey, I don't know how to time the market, I don't think really anyone does, and hopefully what Tom Lee says is right, and we are going to get to 10,000 or 15,000 on Ethereum, that would be a useful bull case. But the likelihood of that actually happening is probably extremely low. And then people saying stuff like this, like he invested in Mr. Beast. Like I would invest in Mr. Beast. So if you don't believe in that, like you're not understanding. I would bet on founders who have done extremely well with people's money. And you could say like he's a meme or he's a child or something like this. Like name another billionaire who's 28 years old. Mr. Beast is, I think, one of those people who is a really smart investment, because look at what he's done with nothing. Like you're 35 talking about Mr. Beast is a bad investment. It's like, what do you do with your life? Like I would absolutely bet on Mr. Beast. He is the most popular person on the internet. I mean, he's more popular than true celebrities. That ability to he scams children. Yeah, truthfully, I'm not kidding. You have no idea what he does. It scams children of what? Of chocolate bars? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I don't know. He's if you want to value people on work ethic and constantly trying to improve their strategy and business, there's not many people that are better than Mr. Beast. And it's why there's so many people who are backing him, whether it's other billionaires and these sort of people who surround themselves around Mr. Beast, because they see the path that he is on. Not speed. Such a horrible take. Guy, like for real, point to one bad thing that the dude has done in business. Like I'm curious. You don't have to like his content, but you're talking about somebody with like more than 1 billion people that follow him. He is like a social media network on his own. That's who you're talking about. Like somebody who did it at 19, who has tripled his audience from, actually started when he was like 13, but has tripled his audience almost consistently since he was like 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and like almost tripled every single year. Like it's not even a debate. You guys, like the people who are anti that type of success for no reason, as to just be a hater, is like, you are just wrong. It's not even an opinion. Like the dude has donated more money and has done more for charity than like, there's not even a bad thing that you can point out about the guy. I don't even like the content, but like just to be a hater because he's popular is ridiculous. He is rich and successful, but a terrible person. I mean, you can say that about so many successful people. I'm talking about it from an investment standpoint. You want to bet on the people who can make a lot of money over time. I feel very happy that Tom Lee had put that investment into the most successful under 30-year-old in the world. And he's not shilled BMNR or anything. He took an investment from BMNR. He's not said a single thing about crypto on his platform, not once. And that was actually one thing that people said was going to be a bull case, is like, Mr. Beast is going to be shilling crypto. I was like, no, he's not. He works with companies like SoFi and Shopify and like regular businesses that offer people tools, whether that's for business or banking or, regular. They work with companies like Microsoft and Google. He made a chocolate bar and claimed it was healthy, promoted it to children, later changed the recipe to unhealthy stuff secretly. You think that's scamming children, is making a chocolate bar? Like, like you have the weirdest stakes in the world, dude. If I thought Hershey was a good investment, I would invest in it. Like, it's a chocolate bar. You're saying he scammed children. No one says it's healthy. They say it's a healthy alternative to a chocolate bar. He hired, okay, wait, let me address this one too. He hired a child diddler. From my understanding, he didn't know about that. Then he did, and then he fired them. I mean, you don't think Microsoft or Google or any of these other businesses that don't have 1 billion people watching have hired bad people? Like, it's what you do afterwards whenever you find out those truths. You fire those people. If he has it's not like that was the one employee. He has like 400 employees. The dude's my age. Mr. Beast is bigger than Taylor Swift. It is true. Yeah, I don't even think he was a child diddler. I think, like, I'm just addressing it the way that he addressed it. I'm just saying, like, if there was bad people on his payroll, they've gotten fired. And Ramdam's right here. You're investing in way worse people. You're like calling Mr. Beast bad, and then you'll put money in Meta. And you're like, no, this is healthy for children. I don't want to invest in Mr. Beast because he's bad for children, but I'm going to put my money in, I don't know, Google or something like this. I'm talking about from an investment standpoint. Can Mr. Beast make money or not? I think he's very business savvy. That's a whack take. What is Mr. Beast's moat? Dude. I would say that there's a lot of key man risk to Mr. Beast. But I don't think everything needs to be a moat in order for it to be a good investment. I don't think SoFi has a moat. I don't think any bank, financial institution, payment company, anything like this has moats. They have good marketing. They have great talent. They spot quality. And yeah. Okay. And the investment's small. I mean, for a $15 billion company, they have 180 million in the business, but yeah. Okay. Let's really quick. I don't know how I can do this. Maybe there's let's see here. Someone said his views have fallen off a cliff. I don't know if there's a way or if there's a website that reports his annualized views, but I'd like to see what his views are per year. Is there a way for BMNR to track the investment in Mr. Beast so far? I'm sure they have, like whenever they do funding rounds, obviously, it would be super illiquid. Yeah, but Social Blade, I don't think does annualized views, right? I don't think they do. Yeah. I just realized, guess how many videos Mr. Beast has uploaded? 999 videos. I'm sure he knows that. I'm curious maybe what his next video may be about. Okay. You can find it on Social Blade. I have not been able to see an annualized thing of it. Let me invite my guest onto here to talk about some of these investments. I gave 1,000 children poison candy. That's too funny. Yeah, I mean, you don't like to like the person. You don't need to like the content. I'm the type of person, I mean, like I could look at a supervillain. I mean, like a true supervillain and go, I mean, he was successful. Like, how can you really look at someone's career like Mr. Beast and say, that guy does not have a successful career? That's wild to me. Like, put down your biases and look at the 1 billion followers that he has. Okay. You know who else was successful, Tanner? Who, Robert? Who? Mark Zuckerberg? An Austrian painter who had a lot of followers. That's who you're comparing Mr. Beast to. That's who you're comparing. Brother. Like, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the great and powerful Evan.
Hello, good sir. How are we doing?
Doing well, brother. Every single time that you've come on the show, I was just about to get to it. You have been a faceless character on this show. You officially are putting a face to the name. You did this recently at your in-person Wolf event. How's it feel?
Feels pretty good. It feels, I thought I would be more nervous about it, but it just kind of was like, it felt like it was time, and here we are. I don't know. This is the moment I was waiting for. Clearly,
you
the
go.
background not very ready for the face reveal. The mic also maybe needs a little work, but we're here. We're here. I am using my MacBook camera, which probably doesn't look great, but it is what it is.
The setup whenever you were faceless before anyway?
This is the setup. This is the setup. There is a ping pong table right there.
Yeah.
So you can see my messy bed.
Dude, we were at, what was it? In California for the Google event. And I found out that they had a ping pong table at that hotel and we never went to it.
You're good at ping pong, right?
There's levels to things, so I'm always being cautious.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that I could put up a good fight. I don't know how good you are.
No. Here's the thing. In like the tier system of things, the guys who are really great, like I can get a point or two off of them. Like it's going to be like 11-3. But like if you're average,
like tournament level, like they're getting wider and wider from the table. You're taking 3 points off like a world class.
No. I'm talking like that 1 or 2 tiers below those people. Like you're just like this guy Ryan Emperador, just good at everything. He's pulling out the behind the back move and stuff, and it's landing. I did play against a tournament person, and I did get a point or two off of him, but it was like a couple years removed from it.
Okay, well then you likely have me beat, but you know, maybe I get 3 points off you.
Well, if you ever come to Puerto
guy
Rico.
from War Dogs.
Oh, that's funny. The Veroli, we were just talking about that actually the other day.
I was trying to look for the photo with Amit whenever he did whenever he asked a question at Robinhood.
There's a shirt that I'm on. Like Ahmed has a shirt that like it's him taking the picture. I'm right next to him.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find is there's been a lot of times where you've been on camera and I've known who you were, but obviously you've just been this recurring figure in many of these events. Man, I got to find that sometime. Regardless, actually, do you know what quarter that was?
Do I know what quarter that was? So it would have been this quarter last year would be my guess. So whatever they just reported a year ago.
No way. Q2 2025? I don't even think that was in person.
That would be my guess.
Wow, that was in person. Wow, Jason Warnick was there. Okay.
Black Mamba is pointing out that I can't stand still. It's just ADHD, dude, and I'm excited to be here.
I'm happy you're here. I just want to show this off because this was a Mitt at the event.
And congrats on innovating.
This is not the best picture of me, but hey, here we go.
Currently, right.
No one knew that this was you.
It's funny. The reason I was laughing, the first thing he put down was currently right now. Like, didn't even have a question. Just said currently right now that he knew he was going to say it.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm done blushing over the secret life that you've lived, taking more of the photos than being in the photos. But how you doing, man? You excited about Nvidia earnings?
I am doing well. I am excited about these earnings. The question is like, how much does the market actually care about the numbers? This thing has like dulled us into overperformance, and beating numbers huge. And maybe there's 1 or 2 things I'm looking there, but I'm excited. I think the bulls and bears are going to learn nothing from these earnings, and who knows? It's been interesting that the stock's been down like 7-8% or 7 days in a row besides today. I know it was crazy a little bit. So maybe it has an easy setup. It's actually up 2%. So it probably does go up a little bit. And I'd imagine like that, took some of the negative potential out of it. But yeah, I'm excited for the data center. Triple digits growth would be a pretty cool thing. Peter says I'm 5'6". I am 5'9.25". I say 5'10". Sorry, ADHD.
Triple digits. The same height?
We are roughly. I think you're a little taller, right?
I almost threatened you, bro, saying we're the same height.
How tall are you?
A little bit taller.
Okay.
I'm 5'11". My whole audience says I'm 5'6".
Okay. 5'9.25", but I say 5'10". I think that's a fair roundup. Triple digits growth on data center revenue would be pretty cool. 5.7. There you go. And I'm also watching that gross margin as well. everyone who's going to say negative stuff about Nvidia, they're going to talk about how they're never going to be able to hold on to this gross profit margin, and they're going to show you another quarter of them holding on and expanding it. So I don't know how you deal with the people who don't believe the story will continue to last, kind of rounding with the story continuing to last longer than people expected. I don't know what we learned, but I mean, yeah.
I certainly hope it's a quarter in which corrects some of the bulls, or sorry, the bears. Like you said, I don't know if it will change anything. I mean, they've come out and said just unbelievably bullish things every quarter. But as that's gone on and the buybacks have increased and the dividend has improved, we've still not seen a recovery. I'm curious, is there a bottom? Like, is there a floor to the valuation, whether that's price to earnings, price to sales, that Nvidia has to get to before, like, every quarter of increased earnings just brings the stock up by that amount? Like, if we end up sustaining a 50% growth rate next year, does the stock have to go up 50% because the PE is 15 times?
I would say that trailing PE is probably where you look at the floor. The forward PE, I think that people are going to come in and say analyst expectations could change. The bears and the people who are more neutrals, I think, are in the stage with the story where they just don't believe it's going to continue to last, and they just need to keep seeing it proven. So I would imagine that floor is going to be found on the trailing PE. Wherever that number is, I don't necessarily know. If I did, I'd be loading up calls. But yeah, we're in an interesting spot with this one right now, where there is an immense amount of build out that has been happening this year. This was really an inflection, and all of it hasn't come online yet. These companies haven't been able to get the real benefits from it. A lot of the capacity that was sold this year still isn't online. So I think we're still in a little bit of a prove it stage. I wonder if we do learn more over the next couple months and maybe quarters. And I do wonder if the thing that pushes Nvidia higher aggressively and maybe leads to PE expansion is not necessarily the internal story. It's their customers really getting profits from the AI tokens that they're doing. I wonder if Nvidia needs Anthropic and OpenAI to find that business model for it to end up working out in the short-ish term. But yeah.
I'm curious your thoughts on some of the circular financing. You've practically reported on every single deal, every valuation increase, new ARR targets for all the companies that they've been buying into. Is that a concern to you?
I don't know if I have the right take on this one. I'm not super concerned about it. It might cause you look back at the internet in the 99, 98, people were buying there's a huge crash, but the internet was right. Maybe that's what we're setting up for. I don't know. Maybe it kind of leads to that air pocket or whatever. I can do the air quotes now without having to say it. There's like an air pocket there where like a quarter, 2 quarters, or maybe someone can't do the things and stuff gets delayed, but ultimately AI is going in the right direction. Maybe we're setting ourselves up for that, but I don't know. I just very much strongly believe in the direction it's going. And these circular deals, quote unquote, did the other way, only really become a problem if we don't get to that point where this is extremely profitable, where we're increasing tokens and doing all that stuff. So it might lead to increased volatility along the way, but I don't think it's an ultimate problem, in my opinion. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think it's a double win for them, not a problem at all. They've benefited from the equity gains of buying into CoreWeave and Nebius and all of these businesses. And then on the back end of those deals, not only have they been buying equity like we are, but then they also get gigawatts worth of sales. I'm not selling anything to those companies that I'm also looking to buy at great prices. So, they have a ton of visibility into the market, which I think gives them an investor edge. Like, Jensen has seen more of the things that Nebius and CoreWeave are building, the types of products that Anthropic and OpenAI are building. That's what gives Jensen a lot of excitement about the future, is he knows what's coming. So he's investing with so much edge. And then on top of that has the greatest dividend of all, which is they are purchasers of his products at market rates. So I think it's a double win for them. And yet people complain about it. I think it should be praised.
Yeah, your chat is saying that Dolly Parton passed away.
Oh, rip.
Rip, rip. It literally did just come out though.
I'll give
But
you
yeah,
a minute to tweet that out.
no, we're okay. I'm not going into the obituary section, but yeah, overall I agree. The answer is if AI ends up working out, doesn't really matter. And Nvidia just has so much cash, they could do whatever with it, and this is what they're trying to go in and do and support the ecosystem. I think Jensen knows that, sees the demand and sees where everything is going, and if we're at these places, he doesn't want the bottleneck to be this small thing, this thing. It's almost like they're trying to get rid of those bottlenecks now, before all this stuff happens. So I think it makes sense. What would they go and do? Buy back shares or increase the dividend? I guess that's fine, but I enjoy stuff with higher upside potential. It's honestly with Meta a little bit. I was kind of having this conversation of the other day. People will lament Mark Zuckerberg for taking these big swings, and maybe some of them fail. Meta obviously didn't do the metaverse, and some of these other ones did. But if he wasn't taking those big swings and Meta was in, increased dividends, shareholder return platform, I wouldn't want to own it anymore. I want that growth side. I'm willing to bet on the investors. So at 5 trillion, it's tough, but I like these growth companies continuously looking for growth.
Dude, I think that's such a mindset advantage that honestly, those types of investors lean to be growth investors. But I love that Meta takes big swings. I think that you need to be a type of person, whether you've tried to start your own business or do something like that like you really, you were just in here whenever we were talking about Mr. Beast earlier, and it's like, not everything that any of these types of people have done have all been successes, but the fact that they do have a success rate that's above 50% and the wins are 10x, 100x returns, like I love betting on those types of people, whether that's Toby Lucky or Jensen Huang or, Mark Zuckerberg. All of these types of individuals have, put their entire companies on the lines at certain points to make sure that they don't fall behind. I'm just curious if, how much of your money are you putting into the types of businesses that are at that sort of very high risk stage, like Mark Zuckerberg's at right now? Like, how do you balance risk with a company like that, knowing that although he is trying, he still could get it wrong?
Meta is my largest single stock holding right now.
Well, all right, that settles it.
Yeah, my single stock portfolio is about 60% of what I have is somewhere we could say. The other 40% is in ETFs. The ETFs, I do have QQQ. I have QTOP, which is like the NASDAQ 30. And then I have the S&P 500. I'd say that portfolio is like 60% QQQ, like 30% QTOP, and 10% VOO is going to get you in that general direction. Very mega cap tech focused on the ETF portfolio. And honestly,
very America focused.
Very America focused, very big tech. The single stock portfolio, a lot of the names at the top are some of those mega cap names as well. I do have a lot of overlapping exposure, which I probably do need to sort out a little bit, but I want to go in on this tech. I am investing for decades, and I very much believe that we're in a world of these largest companies in the world continuing to get larger, and technology and internet, AI, and all this stuff is a boon that we're going to ride for decades. So that is where I have a lot of my portfolio. I spend a lot of time talking with Stock Talk and these other people who are in like the SMID cap game. So I have a couple of his names towards the top. LEU, which is the only person who can enrich low-grade uranium in the U.S. So if you're a nuclear area and you want to do anything commercial in the U.S., you have to go through LEU. They have deep partnerships. They're actually a spin-off from the Department of Defense. So it's not like something that they're, I don't know, the moat in there. And yeah, so it's a little bit, the numbers, a little bit more richly valued, but there's some uniqueness premium there.
Some real moats there.
Yeah. ENS is another one that I have a large holding in, that is a battery company. TE is one that I've gotten wrecked in a little bit. So if you guys, don't buy my bags, I guess, but I am in some TE.
Is that T1 Energy?
That is T1 Energy. So a little bit of a solar new, like one of my fundamental beliefs is that, first of all, we need more energy. And It's not really a clean energy play for me, if I'm being honest. It's energy independence play. We go to war over oil, gas, energy. You see what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, and being able to be energy independent, I think, is a theme that will only increase across the world. So I am trying to shift my portfolio a little bit towards that one as well. And yeah.
Got you. But Meta is the largest.
Meta is the largest, then Apple, then Nvidia, then LEU, then ENS, then TE, then AMD, which I own just a lot lower, and I probably will end up
I thought you had a
trading.
lot of Nvidia.
Nvidia is the third largest holding. My cost basis is $7.50.
Yeah.
I just haven't added in a while. It's the third largest. Apple, I bought like 8 years before I bought Nvidia, so it's had a lot longer to compound. And I've been aggressively adding to Meta recently. So that's what took it up.
just so people know, and I've seen this in person. He showed me his accounts on his Robinhood and everything. Evan and I get along so well because he is very much a long-term holder. You know, we don't always see eye to eye on names like Apple, for example, but you've been an Apple shareholder, and how long has it been?
I was 13 when I bought those shares. Shout out to my dad for helping on that one. So 15 years.
This is what I mean.
Yeah. I sold before the 7-to-1 split, and I haven't sold since. I already took my cost basis out like a decade ago, so I don't know.
What was your what's your average cost on that?
$11.91.
$11.91. That's awesome.
I do have to drop off, unfortunately. Can I just one more thing?
Yeah.
I love Tanner. This is the page and the guy as well. But you guys, if you're watching this and not subscribed, you should subscribe. If you are subscribed, you should hit that bell button so you get notifications. You should like the stream as well. I appreciate you for having me, sir.
Love you, brother. Thanks for coming on. That is the great and powerful Evan, and he's always been a long-term supporter. What a guy. But yeah, he's been a big like the reason why I always talk with Evan. And I do talk a lot with Evan. Not only is he stock market news, and we show a lot of his reports here on the show, but he is a long-term investor in stocks. Does not cut a lot of names, and yeah, if you have a winning pick, then keep holding. And you can say like, oh, that's his dad. But a lot of people, as they've learned and heard the stories of Apple and, started to get there's been a lot of bearish talk on Apple. Apple's been one of the most sold names in retail holdings over the last few years. So the fact that he's still holding goes to show you that even past just his dad giving him that opportunity, he has made smart decisions to continue to hold those names. Those are not easy decisions, because when everyone's talking about LEU and T1 Energy and all of these other names, he has to make a conscious decision to not double, triple down on those names and potentially make his entire portfolio more speculative. He has this consistent base made up of names like Nvidia at $7. It's pretty wild. I am a huge believer in long-term holding and hope that Evan continues to hold those names for many, many more years. Hood is getting a bit overextended today. It's at 112. I mean, just bask in it, guys. Come on. Bitcoin's up. Event contracts continue to do well. It'll probably be 2 more weeks. We end up seeing August numbers come in. Market, I think, has been a lot more excitable in August than it was in July. So I think that the monthly numbers will be really, really good for Robinhood. On top of that, they've continuously made more acquisitions, entered into the Canadian market, continue to expand in UK markets and in Singapore. So they just are expanding. The market will do its thing, but Robinhood, in terms of execution, is entering into new markets, offering people new credit cards, entering into new spaces. They deserve to continue to climb up in their market share over time. Okay. Nebius is up today. So Nebius is one that I really wanted to talk about. We've covered that they have raised $4.5 billion. We talked about how they ended up increasing that raise from 4.5 to $5 billion. This was, yesterday after the close. So I had just stopped streaming whenever this came out. You guys might have heard it on a midstream, I assume, but that they also just said that now aggregate gross proceeds have now approximately got to 5.75 billion. So they took the full amount that they possibly could, and that was funded by the market. Convertible notes, 5.75 up from 4.5. That's a lot of extra money. An additional 1.25 billion on top of what you like a 25, almost 30% increase from the initial offering. That's huge. And what are they going to do with that? Buy more GPUs, set up more data centers, hopefully end up signing new deals, or like get in new customers. So one of the ones I think they just announced Rescale. Actually, I'm lying. That was CoreWeave. CoreWeave announced Rescale. So deal flow is still happening at the neoclouds. While they might be in vogue or out of vogue at times in terms of people's belief in these businesses, I mean, they just continue to move, or they just continue to execute. I'm not in resolve. Yeah, Rubrik is diving. Imagine if it wasn't, how high I would be on the draft. It's actually crazy. Rubrik, I think, was a really, really great name. I'm only up 28% on that. I was up 45% on that earlier. But SMCIs continue to move. Hoods continued to move. Lumentum's now going up. We've got 9 names in the green. Sentiment does change daily on data centers. It is pretty crazy. But I'm focused on where that end game will be. And that's going to be heavily based on their actual numbers. Right now, it's a voting machine. Later on, it will be a weighing machine. This was wild. New chip from Broadcom that I think was developed in 7 months. Codename Jalapeno is actually showing off performance that could, in certain benchmarks, end up beating Vera Rubin. They talked about how they're beating Grace Blackwell's, both 200s and 300s. Now, by the time that this is fully released and working and actually in production and set up in data centers, we got a long way to go from there. And then you're actually competing against the Vera Rubin Ultras or potentially the Rosa Feynmans. So this is sort of the hot, comparison whenever it comes to custom ASICs and how they perform in certain areas. But it is really great for Broadcom, okay, that they have another big winner outside of just purely, whenever it comes to the custom ASIC space. You have TPUs, you have Trainium. There's a lot of other names, but they don't really show up. They're not great in terms of performance. OpenAI's new chip, codename Jalapeno, is actually putting up great numbers. Very, very spicy content here. In a little bit, you want this for OpenAI, right? They've kind of been falling behind in terms of some of the things that they've been able to put out. Growth has not shown up the way that Anthropic has, but they have huge purchasing commitments. It's worrisome for the AI trade in general. And I do have a stake in Broadcom. I'm fully aware there's going to be multiple winners here, not just Nvidia, also AMD, also Broadcom. Very excited to see some of this diversification. Okay. Evan saying, you should buy stocks for your kids when they're 13. Break the loop. I love it. Get those Trump accounts, load up on shares for your kids before they grow up. Let it grow a bit. Use America's money. Okay. Time to accumulate Broadcom. We should have been accumulating Broadcom right after earnings, is my belief. Earnings dominated. People ended up selling off Broadcom, and there's been a lot of talk about some serious progress that other companies have made, like Marvell and stuff. Broadcom's right in there. Like, they are producing TPUs that are selling off the racks. Mind you, the relationship that, there's a whole sort of chain of performance here. Not only is, Google TPUs selling like crazy, Broadcom is going to be a huge beneficiary there. Maybe Jalapeno as well. The real photonics, winner there is Lumentum. Lumentum publicly said that Google's like their biggest customer, or one of their biggest customers, I think is what they said. So as these TPUs go out, and likely very similar with Jalapeno as well, that Broadcom has those types of relationships with Lumentum, they will also win. I don't want to win once in this trade. I want to win across the entire layer. I want to win from the neo clouds to the chip providers to the component suppliers to potentially the application layer as well. That's what we need to invest in. No one wants data centers. I want data centers. And also, who cares what people want? It's what's happening. What about Coherent? Coherent will be a big beneficiary as well. I just think specifically in CPO and NPO, Lumentum has a pretty good product mix. So it's not that how do I put this? Like CPUs, for example. If CPUs have a big boom, Nvidia obviously is a beneficiary. They sell CPUs. But whenever it comes to Intel or AMD, who is the company that has a wider product mix that is more specifically tied to CPUs, Nvidia or AMD? You'd say AMD, right? And so during that recent CPU boom, Nvidia sort of flatlined, and AMD went from $180 to $500. So Lumentum and Coherent, I think, are very similar in that nature, where the specific product mix for CPO and NPO now, near packaged optics, is going to benefit Lumentum just a little bit more. It's not even that they're a bigger company than Coherent or they're going to make more money than them. It's just because they're specifically focused in the areas that are the biggest bottlenecks, that growth is going to allow the company to climb faster. It's not about buying the biggest names always. It's about buying the names that are going to have the fastest level of change versus market perception. Okay. I love data centers. The humming noise is good for sleep. For real, I'm a weirdo like that too. If everything is perfectly silent, I can't fall asleep. I need a fan on. Now, I'm not a TV guy or something like this. Really, it's a fan, but my fan is loud and I love it. It puts me to sleep. Some areas of the world that say if you go to bed with a fan on, it's not good for your soul. I don't know what that says about me, because I've slept with a fan on for multiple years, but I'm trying. Maybe that's allowed me to invest in companies like Mr. Beast. I'm just a soulless person. To the people who are coming in that didn't see the commentary about Mr. Beast in my argument with Robert in chat, longtime viewer. It's going to make less sense, but scroll back a bit. I fall asleep listening to one of your shows. Thank you. Air purifier and a fan. Dude, I'm sick of the air purifier. I've got one right behind me. It's got to be the most frustrating. And maybe I just need to read a manual from time to time. I bought the, I don't remember if it's a Ninja or a Shark. It's a Shark. This thing is called, literally, the legal name. They should get sued. This company sucks. I don't believe that. This product sucks. This is the Shark Never Change filter. That's what the name of the product is. And this thing just beeps red at me and is like, please change the filter. I'm like, what? You guys told me it was going to last like 5 years and then I would never need to. It won't work. And I get I own a few Dyson products. The Dyson air filter costing like $1,000, or air purifier costing like $1,000. I'm like, man, I can't get over that price. Seems ridiculous. The vacuums, you know, I'm all for Dyson. I need to get the, what is it, like the V16? I'll be a Dyson owner for a while. Their air filters, I'm sure they work. Air purifiers, it's like $1,000. That filter probably has a cake of dust on it. Do you want me to? I'll open it right now. I'll open it for real right now. I gotta be here. 1 second. Okay. This is it. I got it right here. All right. And it's plugged in, but here, I'll turn it on. Look at this thing. This is my never change filter. It's working. I can feel the air flowing through it, but it's loading. Once it's going to work. This is going to, look at that. Check dust filters is what it says. This is the side filter that gets like my dog hair and stuff in it. I got to clean it out from time to time. But that's not bad. That's still see-through. Okay. On the other side, give me a minute. I probably got to turn it off. 1 sec. That is not, well, there's a little bit of hair. I've got dogs. Okay. But that's not terrible. There's a little bit of hair on one side. All right. That's not, that's a 5-year forever no change filter. Come on, Shark Ninja. Freaking. Anyway. That's not bad. I've seen worse. I know. Like, you guys are acting like my filter shouldn't have dust in it. It's a air filter. Shark Ninja stuff just tanked. It's actually been doing crazy well, which is funny because it's been like the one time where like all their products have just been like not happy with. Also, do they sell a toaster? I'm having problems with my toaster. I always do this, by the way. This is how much love I have for this company. Anytime I need a new appliance, I check their website to see if they sell a product. If they do, I'll buy from them over any other business because they're that good. I don't think they have a toaster, though. They have a toaster oven. Is a toaster oven and a toaster the same thing? It's not, right? Do you guys toast in a toaster oven? That's not what it's for. Oh, they might have a toaster, actually. A toaster oven's like a mini oven. That's my understanding. But you don't put toast in a toaster oven, right? Just clean the filter. It's called a... You know what? You guys are right. I'll just make sure to change my never change filter air purifier. You guys want to know like how I swear to God, this is like my third air purifier. The last two told me to change the air purifier. I just bought new ones. I swear on everything that is good and holy. Every time, like, instead of fixing, I don't fix things. My car, the heat shield, one of the screws, I guess, got rusted and broke off because I don't take care of it that well on the underside. Like, there's a lot of salt here in Canada for the snow. I was shopping for cars. That's why I was looking at a Tesla. It's because one of my heat shield things went in. I brought it in, and they said, we'll do it for free. They were like, if you want a oil change, we'd prefer if you come back here. I'm not kidding. My towel rack, not my towel rack. My shower curtain thing is just like pressured on both sides. It fell off. I thought about renovating my bathroom. And then I found out that I could just like throw it back up real easy. But dude, someone said dream customer of Nvidia. I swear on everything. I probably have one up here. I've gone through like 4 computers because like one part of it is broken. Like the RAM is done. And then they're like, okay, well, you'll need to buy like $200 a RAM to fix that. But then, you know, the motherboard gets out of date. So every time that my computer needs a new thing, I buy a new computer. People make it out to be like so expensive. It's like $1,000 every 2 years. It's like, anyway. And then I don't have to deal with the old products anymore. I've got a computer I'm looking at right now. It's just sitting in my closet, like on it's just the last computer that I was streaming with. Nothing was wrong. Well, I mean, something did go wrong. I think it was the RAM. And then I upgraded. Tanner just learned to charge a laptop. I do charge the laptops. That I can get, you know, I can figure that out. But I am not a handy person. I'm not. What was wrong with the RAM? Dude, you're asking the wrong guy. I've got no clue. I think like there was flickering or something like this. Someone said that it was, this has been a little bit now. It's an expensive way to live. To be fair, I did get the heat shield fixed, and I didn't renovate my bathroom because the thing fell off. But the reason why my whole house is full of Ninja and Shark appliances is because at one point that appliance that was there before was acting out. So I got a new one. Okay. Let's go back to the markets. Moderna still up 12%. Robinhood 2x. Man, this thing is still running. Up now 8.3%. OpenAI's usage of ClickHouse has reportedly jumped 10x over the past year as the company increasingly relies on it for large-scale logging, monitoring, and AI workloads. CEO Aaron Katz said that gross margins are around 50 to 70% and that ClickHouse could become cash flow positive next year if it chooses to. Instead, management plans to keep reinvesting into aggressive growth. This is one of those things that I think is being underappreciated for Nebius. You know, they own 25% of ClickHouse. ClickHouse just reported $350 million of ARR. Customers like OpenAI, Anthropic, many others are just using them for everything. And I look at companies like, what is it? What's the name of it? Databricks, that just set a new valuation in private markets, $190 billion. And I'm really curious if a company like ClickHouse can grow into, even a fraction of that. Right now, I think their latest valuation round was like 15 billion. But if they're putting up 50 to 70% gross margins, customers like OpenAI and Anthropic are 10xing their usage here. What are we talking about? OpenAI reportedly processed 30 petabytes of data per day through ClickHouse and has shifted parts of its log management away from Datadog. Uh-oh. And Datadog is down. Datadog, $80 billion business. And large customers are rotating parts of their log management away from Datadog and towards ClickHouse. Could this be the next Datadog? Could Nebius benefit? They own a 25% stake in the company. Could they end up benefiting here? Yeah, let's go ClickHouse. Seriously. I do own Broadcom. Yes, as of the last earnings, after it sunk, me and Steve bought at the same time. We bought shares of Datadog. Okay. Let's see. Does Nebius sell their stake in ClickHouse to fund their build out? Absolutely possible. I just don't think they'll do that too early on. I think it really depends on their growth rate. I think if ClickHouse is growing at similar rates to Nebius or as profitable, they'll keep it. If they end up growing much slower than the Nebius like AI cloud business, then they might end up trimming, especially at a later round where their stake is no longer worth, $3.5 billion, but instead it's worth closer to like 5 or 6 billion. Yeah, maybe. I think that they're much closer to selling AV Ride. I'm starting to become a very, very big believer that companies like AV Ride and like the actual owners of those businesses, they're commodities. Now, commodities can make a lot of money, but comparatively, and even maybe you could point to some of the data center businesses being commodities as well, but the growth is much, much, much higher. Nebius is growing, 500% on their AI cloud business. That's looking really good. You bought Datadog or, oh, sorry. I bought Broadcom after earnings, not Datadog. I had Datadog on my screen. I bought Broadcom after earnings. Me and Steve did. Sorry about that one. Thanks for catching that. Okay, SPY's only 17 million of volume today. Just been light for the summer. Yeah. I mean, that's okay, right? The only thing that actually affects is a company like Robinhood. Doesn't affect my portfolio. The volume I want to come back. But even that's probably more institutional than it is retail. Like, You're a smart guy, Tanner. Can you explain the new Robinhood social thing to me? I don't understand the point. Me neither, Preston. I would tell that to Vlad. I've got no clue. Today feels like a slow day because everyone's waiting for Nvidia tomorrow. Yeah, there is some definite very cool pieces of news. Nebius's most recent raise, that's obviously exciting, including the ClickHouse story. So 2 really exciting stories for Nebius's growth potential. Broadcom's jalapeno chip was very exciting. Jim Cramer told investors to sell semi stocks. So That was really good. Nvidia's up on that news. Literally everything that he says the opposite turns to gold. He told, investors back in the day to, not worry about Silicon Valley Bank, double down on that name. He said the same thing about Bear Stearns. Someone called in and was like, hey man, I'm getting worried. I have a really oversized position in Bear Stearns. What should I do? And he said, absolutely do not sell it. And then, 3 days later is down like 40%. It's actually wild to a point how unlucky he's been. I think that because of how unlucky he has been in some of those calls, that traders are actually starting to do the opposite. I think that there is a level of purchasing semis because he told people to sell semis. Like it's almost like a inverse technical analysis now. Like if it's an indicator. It's pretty wild. Kramer sold Bitcoin that marked the bottom. No, I know that there's an inverse Kramer, but it's just sad that it works. It's sad, but it's not even that it just works, because it doesn't always work. Obviously, he does say things and they end up working out. The problem is they're usually on the most brutal of cases. It's not like, oh, he told you to sell Datadog and then Datadog goes down 4%. It's like, that's not, like, of course he's getting things right. It's the fact that he's done it with Silicon Valley Bank. He's done it with Bear Stearns. He's done it with names that have, like, he said, buy, and then they've literally gone to zero. That's the wild part. It's like he's calling bottoms. But, I wouldn't necessarily bank everything on just because he says it means the opposite. But there is a weird chance that whatever he says might do like the complete, like wildly the opposite. Why should it be illegal? Why should that be illegal? He's just wrong. He's not colluding. He doesn't know what's going to happen into the future and then saying the opposite. He's just wildly wrong. Didn't the inverse Kramer ETF close because it lost so much money? I'm not sure about losing money. I know a lot of ETFs really just close because they're not seeing a lot of funding. That's most of the reasons. Like, look at ARK Invest. ARK Invest has lost, just been truly one of the worst capital allocations from like professionally managed portfolios, but because it has a large following, it just stays open. So it's not really about losing money or winning money. It's just whether or not it's popular enough. And I sure as heck am not putting money in an inverse Kramer ETF. Could happen to anyone. Yeah, I know. I don't think that he's honestly, like, everything he calls does happen the opposite. It's just the wildly large positions that makes it pretty crazy. You shouldn't have an opinion on every stock. I have an opinion on, probably 30 names, probably 40 names. And they're all in the same same sectors, same sort of space. Like, I don't know how you can do a call show where people give you positions that, like, I'm sure he's never even heard of, and then he gives an opinion on it. Okay. Kathy just needs to hire someone to do TA for her. It's not just TA. I mean, she's been buying into biotech names and saying Roku is the next. Like, there's no amount of TA that would have told you that Roku is not going to be the next streaming holistic platform that she was calling it out to be. Like Teladoc and like there was a wide variety of, like, her top 5 positions was like Square, Teladoc, Roku, Zoom, like all of these positions. Like, it was like there was no TA in it. You just picked weird names that had no potential to do what she was talking about them doing. And then on top of that, she had like weird biotech platforms. I don't remember all of them because half of them have like literally chapter 11. But some of the research that she does in general sectors, like, I really do admire and listen to, the, what do you call it? Like the ARC research. I think that her sector growths and the things that she talks about there makes a lot of sense. And then what she actually trades on is completely opposite of the research that she just does. Like, she comes out and talks about how like Nvidia is going to be the next biggest thing and the amount of chip sales that are going to happen is going to go through the roof. And that did all turn out to be true. And then she had, like, between the times of Nvidia going from, $20 a share up to like 200, she had like lost money in the position because she would sell at almost every bottom and then rebuy much higher. And yet thematically she was right. So, I don't know. Someone should check on the situational awareness guy. Well, he'll be fine. I mean, what's it called? Warren Buffett had said that multiple times. He said the only thing that gets like extremely smart people into a lot of problems is debt. And that's what, well, not just debt, I should say leverage. But that's what Leopold did. He took on a lot of leverage, but he'll be back. He'll be back. Even after everything happened, he sold, lost all that money, sold the Citadel. He was up 80% year to date. After all of that. That's how up he was. Like, that's insane. So yeah, he's doing okay. Yeah, I follow Kathy Wood's logic. I really do think a lot of the ARC research is good. Like, I mean, I had a conversation with Brett Winton, and they're very, very bullish on SpaceX. Like, maybe too bullish. It's still worth listening to. I had 1,000,001 questions for him. So yeah. Let's see. Hyperliquid going for another real run. Is Ethereum running right now? No, 2470. Bitcoin's probably in a similar direction right now. Under 80,000. We were under 60,000 not long ago. Chime still $32. Where's SoFi? SoFi up 3.6%. Wow, almost hit $19 today. Ended up falling a little bit from there. QXO up nearly 3% today. That's looking good for me in the draft. We're really getting hit with Rubrik right now, keeping the portfolio a little bit. Well, it's not down today, but the only thing keeping us from like really separating ourselves from the rest of the pack was Rubrik today. We're trying though, guys. Not like I have much to do other than rub my hands together and pray, but I'm a big believer that we can really pull away, especially if we are in a crypto bull market. I mean, there's no chance that there's much hope for the others to keep up with my performance because no one else really picked a crypto name, not one. So that would be the big separator. But, you know, long season to go. We've got a bit. Okay. I followed Pelosi into Uber. I'm already up $6. Love it. It did hit 19. I'm not seeing that on my screen. I mean, did you see? Okay, can I ask a really amateur question? And I want you guys to understand this comes from an area of absolute zero knowledge. Okay. SpaceX has talked and Rocket Lab. I need Matt on here to ask this question. Matt, if you're in the chat, actually, let me just see if I can do a quick phone call. Does a space company need to essentially have launch areas in different parts of the world? Because am I not crazy? Like, am I crazy? Isn't it much easier to align it from up there? Like, obviously, the timing of the launch and what direction you're going makes sense. But there's a difference between Texas and Louisiana. I mean, they're not that far apart. All launches are near the equator. Well, I mean, not that near the equator. I wouldn't say Louisiana is near the equator. It's closer than I am. I'll give you that. But for weather purposes, for broad expansion. Well, I agree with, like, you know, if you can launch 2 rockets at the same time, but it depends for the orbit. Okay. Nobody's launching from, yeah, but that's because we don't have, but like, I heard from Matt Money, and I could be wrong. I don't follow this name nearly as closely as a lot of you guys do, but Rocket Lab created a new product called Ghost, which my understanding, based on what Matt said, maybe I misheard him, but like, it's essentially a way to make the launches way more portable, and that they can essentially pack up boosters into like 3 shipping containers and ship them over to Europe. I'm pretty sure that was his example. Yeah, mobile setup for launch. But yeah, but why would you need a mobile setup? That's I don't even understand that. Like, just can't you just like tilt? You're going at like 20,000 kilometers an hour, just like, you know, move it over a bit. It's cheaper to launch the closer you are. Sorry, the cheaper launch, the closer you are to the equator, because it utilizes the Earth spinning more, or something like that. Okay. Maybe it's cheaper to launch if the moon's above you. The moon's directly above you, then gravitational pull allows you to use less fuel. I need a job at these space things. No one's ever even thought of that. Okay. Bro, John said, he just realized. I just cracked the code. Okay. Do you even trade? No, I don't. We follow stonks and invest for the long term. Evan has messaged in chat, said before he's going, he's DM'd me multiple times saying, sorry for the abrupt ending. No, it was perfectly okay. Okay, SoFi is going to be talking at a Goldman Sachs, the Communicopia and Technology Conference on September 8th. I'm curious if we can get an entire list there. And the timing, 10:30, what is that, 1:50? 1:50 Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be live here. We're going to listen to SoFi. We're going to try to listen to a bunch of those other companies. If you guys missed them, Marshall will repost those conversations with SoFi on September 8th and many of the other companies, because Goldman Sachs brings in a lot of businesses. And we'll post them on the second channel. So make sure you're following the second channel if you want access or if you want the ability to get all of the conversations live and on YouTube. Okay. So we're signed up for SoFi's thing. That's going to be exciting. Bitmine not doing much. It's really Nvidia that's moving. Still 213. We did, as Evan alluded to, we saw the largest 7-day drawdown that the company has ever seen, longest streak drawdown since 2022. Okay. So I actually think it primes them pretty well for earnings. It's going to make tomorrow a little bit more exciting. Someone said there's a second channel. Up here, man, we made a little video to talk about all the different places that we're streaming to or have content going out on. Okay. Let's go, Nvidia. Let's go. If you guys didn't see, I put out my full earnings predictions. I'll essentially just tell you guys, I expect on a adjusted net income basis, $52 billion worth of net income, which essentially alludes to about $2.16 of EPS. This is higher than Wall Street expectations of about 209. Now, there's been a few upgrades to Nvidia. So let me go back and just see if that's still the case. We'll check where Wall Street is for Nvidia today. And then on the revenue side, I'm expecting $93.5 billion, which would allude to about 100% growth. There's actually probably more evidence to point to us being closer to like 94 billion because of those constant 3% beats that we see every quarter. But I'm not, I'm being a little bit more conservative. Okay. Earning consensus quarterly. Here we go. Here we go now. Consensus EPS for Nvidia 209. Consensus revenue estimate 92 billion. I expect a double beat. Okay. And you know what's funny? I said $2.16. I actually think it's going to be closer to $2.57 or so, because I think that they're going to mark a $10 billion win from their SpaceX deal. Like, so mark-to-market gains, which come in as non-operating income, will also be a part of that. So I think, you know how you see companies like Google, for example, post EPS beats of like 100%? That's kind of what I think is going to happen. It's not going to mean as much because they're not looking to sell SpaceX. There's going to be a bunch of these types of investments that they hold for an extremely long period of time. And while they have those mark-to-market gains, they're not necessarily benefiting from them unless those companies are dividend-paying businesses, which Nvidia doesn't have any of those. So, yeah, we will have to wait and see if I'm right. And I got to tell you guys, I've got some orders that should be arriving today. I have to make sure that I got to check my Amazon, make sure they're arriving, but I will be ready for the event tomorrow. There's no playing around. I think that that stream that I have with Amit, Jose, Neil is a chance for me to let my hair down. You know, have a little bit of fun. My order will be arriving at around 3:15. Okay, so in the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Leather jacket Tanner. I can't say what I'm doing for tomorrow, but it's Nvidia earnings, ladies and gentlemen. We're not messing around. This is a big day tomorrow. Very big day. Okay. Any news on SanDisk today? Not that I've seen. Obviously, there's been some stories around Vera Rubin Ultra, the next architecture improvement or the next sort of rack scale improvement that NVIDIA is going to be putting out, actually is going to have less memory on board than the Vera Rubin itself. So the Vera Rubin Ultra is going to be a scaled down version of the Vera Rubin. Pretty wild. That'll be the first time in history, at least to my knowledge. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Did we completely skip Fed minutes? 4 out of the 12 Fed banks voted to increase the discount rate in July, Fed minutes show. That happened 1 hour ago. Sam Altman says AI can turn years of context into instant memory. AI can remember and process more context than any person ever could. It's true. That's why I think for the people who, run businesses and stuff, I think it's going to be really important. You already have a lot of that, you have what makes your business very special, but how are you documenting that? And would an AI be able to go through? This is why I love Notion, is I'm allowed to create every single live stream, every transcript that I've ever had, every conversation, person that we've had on. All of this stuff is documented in databases that allows models to essentially scrape through them and be able to have much more context on what the heck we talk about, what I like, what the heck we do here. And as the models improve, they are going to have the history, the context, looking backward. And maybe the models get good enough that you don't even need that. To some degree, they can kind of infer a lot of that information just by going through your files. But I like to be a little bit more organized for, what the future is going to hold. A future in which Anthropic expects that potential revenue is going to be upwards of $30 trillion. It's basically the entire GDP of the United States last year. So that was a Wall Street Journal report that ended up coming out. Pretty wild. Where was that? Just so you don't think I'm, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Anthropic expects to tell investors it sees over $30 trillion in potential revenue, which is going to top SpaceX's eye-popping potential revenue estimates. Which, to be fair, I mean, you're essentially just looking at every single business and all the money that they make and saying, hey, we could probably do that. Maybe they do think they could be the only business in the world. Who knows? Okay. Tanner, we've been hearing forever that SoFi is too exposed to unsecured loans. How do you feel about that now with threats of more Trumpflation? All right. I mean, they are extremely exposed to unsecured loans. If all goes well, then they're going to make a ton of money from those loans. I don't know. I like, I'm not going to talk about the inflation piece. Obviously, inflation would be a little bit of inflation is potentially good for debt payers. You know, it allows you to outgrow that potential obligation. A lot of inflation can really, really hurt. You know, those loans might not be. They could be fixed and they could not change in terms of the payment, so they wouldn't adjust to the new value of the dollar. But in terms of comment on Trumpflation or whatever you said, I'm not going to have any comment there. We'll just have to see what happens. Yeah. Tanner, your friend Adrian here. Would you be open to managing my portfolio for 10% of the profit? I have a data overload. No, thank you. But appreciate you, good sir. That's not a service that I offer. Amit tried to get an unsecured loan from SoFi and was rejected. I know that Chris Patel did that. I didn't know that Amit did that. So I don't know if that was recently or if maybe you're getting them confused. But I know Chris tried to do that. It's based on cash flow rather than just what your FICO and earnings are. Yeah. Also, I mean, you can see pretty much what I'm what I hold. I mean, 50% is in Nvidia. That's what most of my gains, I hope, ends up coming from. Literally the majority. It's true Amit said that? Okay, wow. Okay. Micron's now pushing up. I really don't see... I know that there's definitely some chip providers that might be lowering their memory use, but there's still major steps up from Grace Blackwell. Like the architectures of the future, you know, we thought they were going to be at a certain amount of memory. They might be less than that, but they're not less than the architectures before them. They still are steps up. It's wild how much cheaper Micron is comparatively to the other, you know, sort of pieces of the market. Now, the fact is that they have seen in previous moments is that whenever supply outstrips demand, which has happened in memory, customers like Apple, for example, have come in and just completely squeezed Micron to death, saying like, hey, we're only going to allow you to essentially make 1 point of profit here. We are not looking to pay you a fair wage. We are your biggest customer. By the way, that's the second channel up there. It just switched to the Future Investing 2. So there is always that looming effect or reaction that I think memory investors have to previous moves. But I think we are a long way, let alone like, I mean, it's late 2027 when we know supply is coming on board. And honestly, I think that that's going to not even be enough. Like, so I actually think it's a really long while to the fabs make, you know, an equilibrium of supply and demand. Pretty wild. Steve, I did not slander Apple. I was being honest, and any Apple investor knows this. They ran a lot of those memory companies back in the day. Apple is extreme. I think Tim Cook is one of the best in the world at this. He is a supply chain guy and was not paying anything more than what he had to in order to supply memory for a lot of the iPhones and Macs and these sort of things. And a lot of the memory companies ended up getting squeezed because Apple was an extremely good purchaser of consumer memory, not allowing them to make a lot of profit on them. That's a huge benefit to Apple. And now Apple's trying to be extremely smart again today, going to China like CXMT and saying, hey, how much can we get your memory? Like they're constantly, doing the right thing for their own business. I was not hating on Apple. Tim Cook is, he's amazing. I don't know if he's the visionary that Steve Jobs was, but he sure hasn't hurt the business. Jonathan, unfortunately, I do think you're correct. Not in the part that what goes around comes around, but that the fact that Apple is now definitely not in the pricing seat. It is a seller's market, not a buyer's market. And last time, whenever Micron was getting really messed up, it was a buyer's market. They depicted the price. Micron is saying, hey, we don't even have to sell consumer anymore. We're doing this out of our good graces. We're making all of our money on, the data center side. So you're going to see Apple iPhone and hardware and Google products and all of these things. The prices are going way up because memory is going to the highest bidder, and they can't compete on the consumer side. Yeah, they are blaming Micron now, but yeah. Okay. The semi and memory race is on. I'm betting on both. I am betting on both. Wow, I didn't realize Shopify's 153 now. Woo-wee! We're getting back there, guys. If somehow Shopify ends up climbing back to 180, Nvidia's at 230, 240 again, and then all my other plays like Nubank's coming back, SoFi starts returning, Nebius continues to do extremely well, Micron does well. I mean, I might have to take a week off and enjoy. That'd be nice and good. Will you ever interview Paper Gains? I'm sure I will. I truly, you know why I haven't reached out to Jason to interview him? I don't even know what I would ask him. Take a Jose vacation? Yeah. Maybe not a Jose vacation. I don't know if I could do that. But I do like these returns in big names. Same with, dude, Mercado Libre is coming back so strong. I don't have the biggest position in Mercado Libre. My average price is around 1,200. But whenever I was buying from 1,200 up to 2,600, like it was a great pick. It was almost a straight line, I bought somewhere like around here. It was perfect. This sell-off was something completely different. Obviously, gross margin pressures. They were betting, a lot on the future. And holding this company under 1,500 was extremely, extremely depressing because how much growth that they have put up over these last couple of years has just been truly immense. This company is growing at just blitz scale. And the fact that they're starting to come back, and not only that, in fact, we bought it here in the draft. I really do think that they will be on a path to gain, well into the 2,000, 2,500 range. They definitely deserve to be at that price before, let alone how much bigger the company is already today. So really, really happy with Mercado Libre. Company's coming back. Company is still cheap. Smoking Joe, I completely agree with you. This company is cheap. Okay. Do you invest in Canadian real estate? No. No. I have my house, but that's it. Okay, let's see. Can they do a stock split yet? They could. I don't know why they're not. I think it would drive way more retail interest if this company was $190 rather than $1,900. You know, I'm not writing covered calls on this name. Maybe I would if it was cheaper, but hey, I don't know their decision making over there. Oracle just tanked. This person says tanked. This better be tanked. It's not looking good for you, brother. Okay. OpenAI's head of data centers, Chris Malone, just left the company. And there is a Oracle tag that also got attached to that for some reason. OpenAI recently just finished its next pre-train, codenamed Bell, the successor to Doug, which is expected to be the base for Astra and GPT-6. Okay. Bell is a giant pre-train with over 10 trillion total parameters, similar size to ChatGPT 4.5. OpenAI expects it to be the post-GPT-6 base and potentially even the base for an AGI threshold model. Wow. The reports say that all of this has Anthropic concerned. OpenAI believes Anthropic has no good response to Astra prepared for a public launch. And my understanding is that they are correct, mostly as a result for compute constraints. Anthropic is bracing for much of the rest of the year to go OpenAI's way, but think that they will be back on top early next year. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you guys, no one wanted to believe me. The future compute constraints is such a big deal. The fact that OpenAI has gone out and secured so much compute early on is definitely a benefit to them if they can get it right. So this is true, right? You need compute for inference for the customers that you have today. You need compute for the customer that you're going to have tomorrow, which is going to be based on a future model. How do you pre-train that model if you're so busy giving out every dollar to customers that are paying you huge amounts of ARR? Now, the good thing is Anthropic can take that amount of ARR in form of real operating profit and go to companies like SpaceX and say, hey, give me GPUs tomorrow. You're paying such an unbelievably high rate to secure data centers today, rather than what OpenAI is doing, which is securing data centers in the future for prices of today. So locking in 5-year deals, 10-year deals that are much, much cheaper. Why am I mad? Not mad. Passionate. Passion. Happy. Isn't OpenAI not even close to profitable? Yes, it's very true. They are spending a lot. Okay. Yes, OpenAI head of data centers left, which honestly, I feel like this happens at a lot of businesses, but because it's in the space that, OpenAI and Anthropic are in, like how contentious artificial intelligence is, these become large stories. But if the head of some department at an insurance brokerage leaves, no one even bats. It doesn't even make the news at all. And it's not because, the person who left, I don't know, a firm, head of underwriting. It's not like people care. Like No one sells off a firm because someone left in their high end of the business or even C-suite. But if it happens at OpenAI, huge, huge news. OpenAI back in business? Will yeah, potentially. I'm really looking. Astra was the one that they talked to the White House about how there's multiple agents that are working on one that's working on, one problem and tackling different areas of the problem to try to get faster responses. Okay, let's see more of this story. I'm trying to figure, was that Wall Street Journal? I'm trying to see based on the text who wrote this article. That way. Who do you think that this story is from? Oh, per Wall Street Journal. Okay, it literally says it. Let me see if I can get the actual story. Am I allowed to share it or no? Maybe I can share parts. Okay, so this is the article that I'm going to read through really quickly. OpenAI's head of data centers has left the company. Joins a string of recent high-level executive departures as the AI giant heads towards an IPO and ramps up its spending on compute power. Maybe I can also get a quick summary here. Malone's departure follows towards an IPO expected in 2027 and increases its projected compute spend to $750 billion through 2030. That's so wild. Like, this company didn't even exist a few years ago. Wait, can I remove this ad somehow? Look at me, Tanner without ad block. I'll just show this part of the article. Malone's departure comes as OpenAI is doubling down on securing compute capacity. The firm raised its projected spending on compute power to around $750 billion through 2030, up from a projection of roughly $600 billion, the Wall Street Journal reported back in July. Earlier this month, OpenAI also signed a 10-gigawatt data center lease in Ohio with SoftBank SB Energy, which is partly backed by Nvidia financing guarantee. Pretty wild there. Okay. A string of departures. I mean, this is what they said, OpenAI was dead and gone in the water whenever Meta was hiring every single one of their head, names. And Muse Spark is nowhere to be seen. And ChatGPT 5.6 Sol is the #1 model. So, like, for real, I never know how this ends up coming about. Like, is there something at OpenAI that is their magic sauce versus what's happening at Meta? Why are they able to put out such great models even whenever they lose their smartest minds to, 9-figure deals from Meta? Like, wasn't that supposed to completely kill OpenAI? How did they have one of the best models in the business now? That's why you don't count out Google here. Google's got a lot of compute. Excuse me. The problem is they have to sell a lot of compute. The 3 companies in the lead for compute that don't have to sell it: OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta. OpenAI is leading the charge. Meta's not far behind. Anthropic's actually 3rd in that list. So, yeah. Decent Reddit recovery. Yeah, we can take a look at that. Decent Reddit recovery. So tomorrow, by the way, the stream is going to be a little bit different. We are probably going to be ending around 3. So 1 to 3, or maybe we'll go like 3:15 or something. But my next show is going to be at 3:30. We're going to go live at 3:30 for Nvidia earnings, which will be coming out at around 4:30, and then the call at 5. Okay. I'm not selling covered calls on Nvidia right now. Maybe after earnings, depending on how much it runs, but I got to be careful with that. Okay. Bloom Energy up 6.3%. Where's Rubrik? That was selling off earlier. And maybe other of the cybersecurity names have been selling off. CrowdStrike we have tomorrow. Is that correct? Earnings Hub. Tomorrow's CrowdStrike. Tomorrow's Salesforce. Tomorrow's Synopsys. Okta. HP. We've got a lot of names, but especially NVIDIA. Tonight, we have Zoom, Intuit, Semtech, Box, Encino, which is not a name anyone would really care about, but they are a competitor to names like Galileo Technologies. So Encino is going to be tonight. That might be a little bit interesting, but nothing too big. Tiny name. Get Sachin on. That's such a good. You're so right. I got to reach out to Sachin. Let me. Sachin. Where's Sachin? Yeah, I'll reach out to Sachin and say hi. Okta could be interesting. We'll follow them all tomorrow, but obviously we're going to be listening to the NVIDIA call. Get the BMNR guy on. Who's that? NVIDIA thoughts, don't be shy. I put out an entire report. You can check out my video. Did you guys like the thumbnail of that video, by the way? I thought Marshall killed it. I don't know if you guys saw that or what, or not. I thought that was pretty freaking good. This one. How great is that? Okay. Oh, the almighty Tom Lee. It is not centered. Yeah, it's not. Five out of 10. Oh, come on. All right. The stream is ending because of Max Payne here. So, you know, the reason why we're ending because of him. He ruined the mood, ruined the party. Ladies and gentlemen, as a recap, before we go, Nebius ended up increasing their overall amount of gross proceeds that they raised. $5.75 billion. Going to be using that for a lot of deals. ClickHouse ended up seeing ARR top 350 million. OpenAI saw 10x improvements there. OpenAI also showed off their new Jalapeno chip. There's been a lot of talk about their new trained models. So really, really cool things coming out of OpenAI, but also higher spend commitments, a little bit more worrisome for the more risk-adverse investors. That said, the Nvidia Rubin Ultra is potentially shipping with 192 gigabytes of HBM4, which is actually lower than how much the Vera Rubin has, which is 288. The initial Rubin Ultra design was supposed to come out with 1 terabyte of HBM4. So this downgrade is absolutely huge and giving Micron investors some concern. But NVIDIA is the beneficiary here, right? They are the pricing power. They control the market. Raymond James just saw that, so they increased their price target from $330 to $352, claiming that NVIDIA right now is cheaper than the broad S&P 500, yet growing and has net income margins that are multiples higher than the overall S&P 500. So a little bit of disconnection there in terms of its valuation. Raymond James also sees Nvidia becoming a leader in CPU revenue and believes that CPUs could make up for upwards of 5% of total sales by 2028, which would be all new revenue going forward. Nvidia also announced a new Jetson Orion Nano 2 robotics computer to redefine entry-level edge AI. This is an even smaller chip, more powerful. Quite interesting that they ended up showing this off today. So pretty wild. 40% less power, same performance. Great stuff there. Continuing to advance and wanting to be like the big player in the next potential S-curve of artificial intelligence, which might be physical AI, that not only finds itself in self-driving cars and these sort of things, but also for robotic arms, specialized robotics, humanoid robotics, big movements there. We also just saw recently, and not like we covered this, but Beijing's humanoid Olympics recently, which ended up showing off robots that can jump higher than humans, run faster than humans, do all sorts of really interesting feats of strength that aren't necessarily autonomous, but showing off what this potentially could do in a weird dystopian future. One of NVIDIA's backed neoclouds, Lambda, is reportedly raising another $3 billion in order to build out more data centers, so more chips needed. That would be at a $12+ billion valuation. So they're essentially raising 25% of the outstanding valuation, more dilution, but that dilution may be going back towards NVIDIA. And so across all of the stories, we've seen bullish stories for NVIDIA, upgrades from NVIDIA, partners that they have, and the pricing power that they have on memory, potentially looking towards NVIDIA. The only thing that wasn't a positive story for them, OpenAI's chip might be so good that they could be lowering their reliance on NVIDIA. Obviously, those types of stories coming up from Broadcom are very concerning, but that's why we like to diversify a little bit into those types of names. So I have a very small position, not nearly as big as my NVIDIA position in Broadcom, but it is based on a future that I see also not being owned by one individual company, but having multiple winners and custom ASICs designed by Broadcom being a large one. Bitcoin, Ethereum, these sort of names doing quite well. BMNR obviously rose, and I gave a full video on where I believe that to be in the future. So you guys can check that out, and that'll be posted later tonight on the main channel, along with the interviews with Evan and those sort of things on the second channel. If you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We're live every single day with content going out throughout the rest of the day. Thank you so much for watching. Really, really do appreciate your time. Bye for now.